Hello and welcome to week 4 of Maya Dynamics. I'm here, my name is Nelson, and Paul Campbell is here.
Greetings, welcome class. Good to see you guys for week 4. Today we've got some fun stuff lined up, both soft bodies that we'll be starting off with, and then we'll move on to nCloth, having lots of fun playing with some of the features that it can do. Any other words from you, Nelson, or should I dive right in?
No, we can go ahead and get started.
All right. One reminder for those of us in the class that are not in the United States, a week from today is Thanksgiving here in the States, so we will not be having week 5 next week, but we'll be delayed. Am I right on my dates? Is that correct? Yes, that's right. So we will not be having class next week, but we will for the 2 weeks following. All right, let's get started. Let me first show you our first scene that we'll be creating. We'll just be making the ramp and the spheres here rolling off. And basically, the concept here is, if you can imagine, we have some snow, and we need to make some sled tracks or have some spheres roll around in the snow and have them deform and dis, uh, displace a plane that, kind of like how snow would be kind of soft and squishy, but only go down a little bit. So let me move something off of my screen here so I can see a little better. And here we go. So let me first show you this example. If hopefully it will play okay. Let me know if the frame rate is terrible and isn't viewable, Nelson. But here we've got, so where you can see the grid in my display is where the soft body is that's being deformed by this sphere traveling along a path. And we have this vehicle whose tires should be leaving tracks once it gets settled, and these spheres dropping off this ramp will also be deforming the ground. So we'll let that play through, and then I'll start off with a fresh scene, and we'll start building this together. Wahoo! And my car is bouncing around. All right, I think that communicates kind of what we're going for. So let me hit stop on that and rewind and start with a brand new scene, and we'll step through it together. So new scene. Okay, first let's start off and make a ground plane, poly ground plane. I'm going to hold down X, so it'll snap to my grid. Hit 5 so I can see it. I'm going to make this one just a little bit bigger than the grid. And then next up, I'm going to make a second plane. I'll go ahead and just leave it the size of the grid. And this will be the portion that will deform, as I mentioned already. And for this one to deform, we need to increase its resolution. We need to add subdivisions. So I'll do something like 40 by 40, maybe high. You can go as high as 80 by 80, whatever you need to be. Let's do 60 by 60. So it will deform. And next, we're going to take this plane and raise it up, maybe what we think would be about a quarter of the diameter of one of our spheres. So just to speak to the concept that we're working with, is we're going to create this plane that's on the underneath, which I should make a color. So if you want to if you want to apply a shader to it without opening up the hypershade, I'm going to right click on this ground plane, which will later be our passive collider plane. You can right click, go assign new material, and choose a Lambert. I'll just make this a color of some sorts. We'll go blue. Ooh, that's a little rough on the eyes. Let's make it dark blue, just so we can see our sort of snow level, if you will. Okay, so let's next model our, make a little ramp. Let me pull this up. So I'm going to make something for our spheres to roll down and fall off of. So we'll start off today using old rigid body dynamics before we move into using the nucleus dynamics and dynamics. Okay, so we have a ramp. Let's throw some spheres up there onto it. I guess I should at some point pause and I should have asked, if people had some questions about homework. Let's say that we'll save your questions for homework till the end if you gave the Slag tutorial a go, and we'll talk about that because that's a scene that I have a lot of experience with. Had a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of people working through that, and I know that it's challenging to learn how to cache out your particles and your smoke and keeping track of everything. And do you cache it out as one int file or as one file per frame? All that kind of stuff. Okay. So now that we have all of our geometry up, so we have, again, this blue plane down at the bottom we're going to make that a passive. So let's switch over to regular old school dynamics, or classic dynamics, if you will. Let's make that go to soft rigid and make that a passive rigid body. Let me see. Open up my questions panel so I can follow along with Remy. Okay. And we'll also make this our ramp likewise passive rigid. Let's make our spheres active rigid bodies. I'll set my frame range to 300 also, something like that. And last but not least, well, not last, let's grab our snow. Well, this will be our deformed geometry. Let's make it, for the first time, a soft body. So go ahead and go to the option box. Let's just make sure, if as long as it's set to make soft, we'll do a reset, make sure, yep, everything's fine, and create. Now it is a soft body. Now we want to make sure we only select our spheres, not our soft body, or it will start falling. And let's apply gravity to those. And I will pause here. I know I just kind of drove through that. And at this point, let's see, we should be able to push play. Let me zoom out so we can see what funkiness is going to happen. Push play. Spheres didn't fall. These are rigid bodies, wheels. Should have gravity on it already, right? Outliner, gravity. Where's our other gravity? Yes, we already have gravity. Why aren't they falling? And play. And they're not falling. I'm going to make my spheres again. Delete. Create spheres. I'll just do one this time. Okay. Make that active rigid body. Add gravity to it. And push play. There we go. Okay. Let's see, question. The sphere is what dynamic body? The sphere is an active rigid body. It looks like you figured that out too. I apologize, I wouldn't know how to say your name correctly, Bileko. Okay, so once we have our sphere falling down your ramp and then bouncing kind of through, let me give that a look. Let's see how far through it penetrates the. Let's see if it goes through far enough. Yeah, that's enough to leave a mark, if you will. Okay. So what we want to do is tell Maya that these two are going to affect each other. So when we turn this, let me talk about this. In our outliner, when you look at our plane, which is I will rename this and call this the snow. When you look at your snow, below it applied, when we made it a soft body, it basically applied a particle on every vertice. And so that these particles need to be told to intersect to be affected by this sphere. So let's see, I'm not sure if I've got the order right, but we'll start off selecting the particle and our sphere. It will let me select it. And then go under dynamics, go to particles and make collide. Let's see if that takes. Looks like that worked. And the snow is a soft body. It's a plane. Let's see, Raven777 is asking, what's the snow? The snow is a plane that's got a high resolution to it. I think I did 60 by 60. And then we convert it to a soft body. And then once we select that particle that's created when we make it a soft body, and then shift select our sphere, then we go particles, make collide. And now it should deform, but it's going to not act exactly right quite yet. So push play, let that fall. And it's leaving a mark, but it's also kablooey out the bottom. So that's not good. Let's fix that. And that's not a hard thing. Yes, you're welcome, Raven. So what we need to do to resolve our issue is to grab our particle plane. Let's go look at our settings, or under particle shape. We might jump over to the channel box, but let's see if we can find it in here. We're looking for conserve that is set to 1. Yeah, I'm going to find it faster if I switch over to my channel box. And here under the particle shape, we're looking for conserve. So conserve is set to 1. We set that to 0. And I'm going to, what am I going to do? I would like my sphere to roll more than it bounces. So I'm just going to lower my stuff a little bit so we get more of a rolling action out of it. So now if I make it big enough on this monitor, release theme easily, rewind, push play. Hopefully you can see how that leaves a mark. And you can apply this soft body trick, to anything. If you can think of, if you have a character animated, you can choose the shoes on the character and say make collide, and every time he steps, it can collide with your snow soft body. If you have, as you saw the vehicle that I had in the previous example, I told the wheels to collide. I set those to make collide with the snow. So basically, anything you can do this way. And so this is a geometry-driven way of creating, tire tracks, wheel tracks, footprints. We're modifying geometry. There are other solutions that of using shaders and things like that, but we won't be covering that. Cool. Let's see. Questions. Does the soft body? I was going to ask. Does the soft body have to be a plane? What if you want deeper snow? Right. No, it doesn't have to be a plane. And if you want deeper snow, you can. I'll stop and rewind to answer that question. If I'm understanding you correctly, you could do one of two things. You can move the top plane or the bottom plane. So if you want it to appear deeper, I can grab my collision plane and lower it, and then hit play. And now we should experience it is now deeper, and the sphere is lower into it. That answers that question. And the soft body doesn't have to be a plane. You can use soft bodies for on anything that you want to be deformed. A lot of times, if you want to wreck, like crash something into a wall, you can take a car and make the front pieces of it be a soft body and give it some parameters and crunch it up against the wall, and a soft body will help you out with the deformation and make it look somewhat accurate. So cool. That covers soft bodies and our only venture into classic dynamics, if you will, for the day. let's get a, let's see. So I guess let's show of hands if you were good here, if you're caught up, or if you're not, let me know. Yeah, let's see. So I can see everything. No, no questions about soft bodies. Then we will move right along. Cool. All right. So if you need to, for your sake, say, oh wait. If you need to, feel free to save the scene for yourself for later. All right, let's move along. Let me clear this out to a new scene and pull over something from my that's actually on my demo reel. So I'll try to shrink this down to see that it comes through, but this is a project that I was a part of, and this is one of my earlier instances in working with nCloth years ago. So this shows an actor in front of the blue screen. I'm about to push play. I haven't pushed it yet. Pulling down uh, pretend cloth, and then we put in CG cloth, and then on that CG cloth we laid live footage over the top using a plugin inside of After Effects for this corporate commercial that we worked on. So here we go. Hopefully it will come through. So he's throwing away pretend cloth. There's the cloth that I was responsible for, the map that we used to map this live action onto it. Yeah. All right. Hopefully, let me know if that didn't play through. I tried to describe it visually if it didn't come through, if it was too high a frame rate or something. So let's just start with just a regular old nCloth. Let's make a plane. It played okay. Thank you, NATO. Let's make a plane and drop it on the grid. And that one thing, if you're any object that's in nCloth must have a decent resolution to it, must have enough subdivisions to it, or it won't have data to bend. If I turn just this plane into an nCloth, it will fall with gravity applied to it, but it won't bend and deform because it doesn't have enough resolution. So let's go. I'll do 60 by 60 again. Might be too high, but that's okay. Okay, oops. So let's take our nCloth that we've got here, and let's turn it towards us. Or I should say this is just a polyplane. We haven't turned it into an nCloth yet. So let's just pretend that we're working on that project that I had there. So I'll share with you some of the things I had to work through. Let's see, we got some questions. Can we combine soft bodies and in dynamics? I believe the answer is yes to that. I haven't done that recently, so I don't recall 100%. The question was, can we combine soft bodies and in dynamics? I would have to go look that up to answer. Okay, so first, now that if you have your high resolution plane here, let's go ahead and switch over from classic dynamics to in dynamics. Go to in mesh, create nCloth. Okay, so now that's an nCloth. And now we're going to put some constraints on it, and that will let us animate them. So grab your cloth, switch over to vertex mode. And again, just give me a yell if I'm going too fast, or if you need me to repeat something, just ask me to repeat, no problem. So we'll make two constraints. So I'll grab this chunk of verts over here as though we've got a wide hand grabbing on with those vertices selected. Go to in constraint, transform. You can just apply it straight away. Then let's create a second place. Choose vertex again. Grab some verts. I'll change the shape of that grip a little bit. Add variety, in constraint, transform. Okay. So I'm going to leave this camera facing front, my perspective, and I'm just going to make a new camera. You don't have to do this, just whatever you like to do. This is how I like to come back to that perspective where it is. So our controls are these little, what look like locators. Those are the items we will be animating. So I'll set my timeline to say 90 frames. Let's see what, I'm just visually grabbing those. Let's see what's in the outliner. So yeah, if you just grab your constraints and go ahead and key them. I'm just going to outright key them, not worrying about it, just hit S. And so I'm being sloppy. You could choose to just to key translate, but to keep it snappy and quick, we'll do it this way. And then move forward. I'll go say frame 10. And I'll move just this one to the left and down. Likewise, I'll move this one to the left and down. They're a little off, so it makes it feel like it's two hands and not one hand or one stiff forward moving it. And then go ahead and key them again on frame 10. I'm going to go to frame 20. And I'll move them over. Now I'm moving them together and down again. This time I want to push them back in Z space as well. And then I'm going to just tweak one of them so they don't look like they're moving at the same time. Select them both and key again. And what's the constraint again? Yes, the constraint is the transform constraint. So once you select your vertices, punch the transform constraint to turn it into a constraint, and then in your outliner you will see a dynamic constraint pop up. And then from there, just start keying it as it moves, or shake it around and move it as you see fit. I'll move mine off screen to the screen left here momentarily. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move to frame 35. Move both of mine off to the left, and I'll pull them forward to add some change in Z depth. And I'll take this one and move it back and over just to mix it up. Select them both and key it. Yes. And let's see what kind of action we have at this point. It should be pretty 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 violent, since we're doing this many moves, 3 moves in under 30 frames. So here we go. Let's switch back to this facing camera. So there you can see your cloth cranking away, hopefully. All right. Let me go ahead and stop and rewind it. And let me just pause and let's see, how do I clear that? Let's just do a show of hands to see if you're caught up, or if you're following along okay, or if there's getting any errors. Is your constraints working okay? Give me a little thumbs up. Thank you, Jonathan. Okay. With our, wondering if I need to wait. Should I insist that everybody go ahead and raises their hand to say they're okay before I move on? Let's do that. Cool. Thank you. Okay. It disappears quickly. Not sure. Okay, we'll move along. So with our cloth selected, let's go ahead and go to the attribute editor. Let's just look at some of these. Oh, here we go. Someone usually moves us on into the not ready thing. It does not already go. Someone's messing with rigidity results. Okay, let's look at some of these attributes. So first, one of the things. So one thing is at render time with your cloth, you would want to make sure that you had your cloth selected and push the number 3, and that would smooth it out. That would make sure, you know, when we look at this in our viewport, we can see it gets kind of boxy because of our resolution and things. So if I stop it, and well, there, this is pretty rounded there, but there'll be times where you'll see, oh, it's real boxy. It looks like there's not enough resolution going on. One way to resolve some of those issues is by switching, is first by smoothing it by hitting 3. And then second, if you have, sometimes there are self-collision errors. So sometimes your cloth will sort of get hung up on itself. Let's just play. I didn't notice mine doing that necessarily, but let me just play that out and let's see if we haven't seen any of those types of errors and see if we make this one adjustment, if it will resolve it. Hopefully we're okay with our relatively high resolution. And you can see how this cloth is pretty stretchy and it's going to spring over to the left. And that's one of the bounciness settings we'll look at here in a moment. So let me stop it, move the camera over. Hello. Okay. I'm not seeing the typical errors that I look for that are resolved with this setting. Let me bring that back. So right here, self-collision flag. Right now it's calculating with the vertices, and sometimes those can get hung up. And so if you're having an issue of things folding in on itself and getting hung up, you can switch to full surface. That will apply later more as we get to deflating things. How would you turn off soft selection display thing? This is from Jono UK. Oh, right. Make sure you play every frame. The soft selection question, I haven't had that. All I was doing, Jono, for your question was I was just right clicking, going to vertex and choosing some verts. And then to switch back, I was going to object mode. And then you can select the entire piece of geometry. Maybe that answers your question. Hopefully. Okay. So, right. So I pointed out that we have a self-collision flag. And let's look at some of the other things. So there's thickness, which that applies to it colliding in on itself. There's bounciness, stickiness. So stretch resistance. So right now at 20, we could see it stretching as it was pulling. So let me just crank that up to 200, which is really stiff. Maybe that's too much. Let's go to 80. Start, and let's see how it stretches differently. So now it's a little bit stiffer. And hopefully as it yanks screen left, it won't extend as much. Yeah, it's staying more at the same size. It goes flying. There's compression resistance, bend resistance. These are all pretty self-explanatory. Rigidity, we know what that was from previously. It kind of makes it very stiff. It makes it try to stay up like a wall, I guess. Yeah. And then there's mass, and that definitely affects things because the nucleus system comes with, there's already gravity built into this. The mass will definitely have a big effect on stuff. So if I switch that from 1 to 10, let's see how that changes things. So we're not seeing a big change here, but we will see that change when we adjust that mass later on. Let's go ahead and move forward. And here we go. I'm seeing some of this self-colliding errors that are wrong. Oh, actually, I cleaned up. Okay. All right. Well, I really just wanted to show you guys sort of the, basics of here's nCloth, and this is kind of what it does and how you can create I'll repeat it again, a transform constraint to give you handles to kind of grab and throw your cloth around. Changing the relative distance of the grips makes it unhappy. Yes, if you pull them too far apart, this is once tornado, that would definitely cause a problem. Okay. Let me look at my notes about jumping on to the next spot. Let's go ahead and move on to doing the next scene, and then we will pause for a short break, and then we'll come back and do our last two tasks. Okay. Let's create a brand new scene. We're going to stick with nCloth. This is, at least I thought this was really fun, working on this scene and the next few scenes we've got going on. So let's make, oh, and you know what? We don't have to, with nCloth, with the nucleus system in Dynamics, it's not necessary for you to create a ground plane. You can create one if you want one, but it's not necessary. It does come with the nucleus. So we won't create a ground plane, but let's create some objects. I'm going to make a pyramid. Bring it up above here. And I'll make a cylinder as well. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Jono's uploaded an image for me to check out. Soft selection. In the settings, turn off soft selection. Let me see your image real quick. Oh, yes. Let's see where we turn that off. I don't know that I remember where that is off the top of my head. I'll look briefly. Yep, I don't remember where the soft selection tool settings are off the top of my head. I apologize. It's the wrench. Yeah, I don't have that. Oh, okay. So here you go. Thank you, Raven, for helping us out. So, Jono, it looks like you need to go where my mouse is, top screen right, show or hide the tool settings, and then you have a soft selection option box that you can turn off. Raven, rocking it. Thank you, class. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, back to business. All right, so we have a pyramid, we have a cylinder, and let's make a fun object to drop onto this scene. So we're going to let's make a sphere and make it a little, I'll turn it on its side. And I'm going to make it a little longer. It is by default. Okay, and I'm going to put this one for me right over sort of the edge, the side of my, I want it to bang into my pyramid and bounce off of it. Okay, so we have this object. It hasn't been turned into anything yet. Let's make this oblong. We're going to call this our water balloon. This is going to be an American football or our water balloon. So first, let's make it in cloth. So go to, with it selected, go to I'm going to change my selection. Go to nMesh, create nCloth. And then we're going to grab our other pieces of geometry and go nMesh, create passive collider. Now, if we just drop this with just throwing the default nCloth on it, let's see what she does. And let me crank up my frame range to, we'll go 500 just to be safe. Rewind, push play, and splat. It's just cloth and it falls all the way down. Okay, So let's first, with our American football selected, or water balloon as it will be shortly, go to the nucleus tab, or just go to your nucleus in the outliner, either way. And notice there is a ground, if you scrub down, there's a ground plane attribute. So we will turn on use plane. So that's basically a plane that's at at the level 0, which you can change the origin of it, and it goes on for infinity. So now if we push play, it should hit the pyramid and hit the ground as well and stop. So cool, that's successful. All right, let me show you some of these presets. So let's go back to the nCloth shape tab, and you'll see there's the word presets with a star, an asterisk on it. And oops, we have some questions coming in. Shall we make the sphere pierce through the nCloth? Next, just asking. We won't be piercing this right now, but we will be doing some popping of some things in a shortly. Okay. Yes, let's go to the presets. So with your American football selected, let's go to our presets. Let's pick. If you go to the very bottom, there's water balloon, and hit replace, and just hit play and watch how it bounces around so much like a water balloon. It blows my mind. So I thought that was amazing. That man, just with a click, that they're able to turn our flat nCloth into a water balloon. Let's try some other items, some other presets. For instance, airbag. We'll come back to this airbag. We'll be using this one. Now it's going to be light and fluffy. Act much different than the water balloon, but somewhat similar. We'll go to beach ball. Let's see more. When I'll push play, and let's see more questions. Okay, good. So beach ball, now it's really light and fluffy and slow moving like a big empty beach ball. That's great. And you can do things like, adjust friction, when you set these presets, you can look at some of the attributes that get changed. You can see its mass change, its lift, its drag, all of those settings sort of change and adjust as those presets define them. It's kind of fun when you do something like honey or lava. So there's my honey results. Lava is cool. Let me try. What did I just do? Let's try lava. I'll do a solid rubber and see what we get. I don't know that I've done that one yet. Okay. Well, you're getting the idea there that there's all these presets that will help you get to sort of what effect that you want. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take our kind of 5-minute break. Nelson, if you're there with us,
Alrighty.
I'll go ahead and I guess I'll hit stop showing my screen. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Yep.
Come that you can assign per object as well. And we will in fact be coming shortly.
Hey.
Cool. You back, Nelson?
Yep.
Great, excellent. We are ready to roll for the second half, and I'll be happy to kick it off.
Awesome. And we're recording.
All right. Welcome back to part 2 of week 4 of Maya Dynamics. And let me show you what we'll be doing with our scene, our same American football that you guys have there, and your whatever else geometry you have. We'll be doing this together. 1, 2, 3, play. Ooh. making a balloon on a ribbon. And then, I believe, will it deflate? I don't recall. Let's watch. Oh, that's what we're going to do. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Okay. So I'm going to delete my items here, and hopefully, let me make another balloon for myself. Here, make it up. Rotate. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to flatten, so to accomplish our goal of having a sort of a flat balloon object, we got to let all the air come out of it. So I'm just going to make mine, and let's see, an nCloth, and drop it. Push play. Okay, there's I've dropped my balloon and it's flat now. So what we want to do is I'm going to rewind and drop it again. I'm concerned. I'm going to set it to self-collision of full surface. So I want to make sure it doesn't wrap over on itself. This is an issue that we have in general. So if you can take your balloon, set its self-collision to full surface, and hit play, and we'll drop it and let it flatten itself out. Okay. Hopefully that will work reasonably well. So now that it's down on the ground in a position where I'd like it to be for starters, let's set this as its initial state. So to do that, with it selected, we go to Solver, Initial State, and Set from Current. I'll hold that there for just a moment before I let it go. In Solver, Initial State, Set from Current. Once we do that and we rewind, that will be our current state. So now we have our sphere on our balloon, if you will, flat and on the ground. Let's go down to, first I want to change, I want to change my preset as well. I'm going to change my preset to airbag. So it's going to act more like an air balloon with an airbag preset. And we're going to go down in the attribute editor to something called the pressure method. So we need to switch over from this volume tracking model to a manual pressure setting. Okay. So right now at 0, nothing will happen. It will just sit here. But what we're going to do is we're going to animate the pressure increasing and blow up our balloon. So I'll key it at frame 1, move forward to frame 9, key it at 0 again. And then I'll move forward to, let me shrink my timeline. Move forward to, we'll spend 10 frames pumping it up. And set pressure to a +2 and key that. I'm keying that on frame 20, but wherever you like should work okay. Okay, I'm going to rewind and push play. I'm going to double check. I haven't commented about someone did bring that up. I'm set to play every frame, which is great. So push play. And now as it crosses 10, boom, it's pumped up our ball. So that's great. Our balloon, excuse me. I'll get a little closer so we can watch it happen a little better. Whoa, it's not helping. Okay, I'll just play that one more time and hopefully you've been able to follow along and I can repeat anything I need to. So basically we flattened it out, and that could be done by changing it to an nCloth and dropping it. Or you also could set the pressure to a -1, and that would suck all the air out of it, and it would also turn into a similar shape. And then all we've done is animate our pressure so that it will pump up, like so, kind of like a balloon. Okay. I'm going to add a bit of color to this one. With it selected, assign new material, invert, let's pick a random color, red, and we'll make it a little transparent maybe. So it won't be quite so bright and it might look kind of balloonish. Oh, it just looks funny, but oh well. Okay, now we want to key it elevating, key it floating. So if I rewind and push play, let's watch it, or I'll just step through frame by frame. So frame 9 through 20, basically, it pumps up, and then it's kind of bounces in the air from the inflating. I'll go. So I would say about frame 23, it was floating good. So now we're going to apply a field to this balloon. Doesn't seem to want to key the pressure for me. So to key it, you just right-click and do set key to key this pressure setting. Make sure you're set to manual and not to volume. Let me know if that works. NATO. Whoa, go away. Whenever I click off of my on my Mac, all my windows pop up. Oh, boo! Someone just crashed. Well, maybe that's why it wasn't keying, because your Maya was ready to crash. Apologies to NATO and his pain of it crashing. All right. Yes, let's move along with this with our balloon. We're going to apply a gravity field to it now. So at frame 23, where we've got it kind of floating up in the air, you can see it's a little off the ground. We're going to go to fields, with it selected, of course, and gravity. And now we have our gravity attribute here. And what we have going on with gravity is we have a direction. So by default, gravity is -1, down, and putting it down. So I'll go backwards one frame to frame 22, and I'm going to key this direction. So that's sort of normal gravity. And now if I go forward one frame, we're going to turn gravity around and send it up by changing this direction of, excuse me, of down and Y to up and Y with a +1. So I'm going to key that. So at frame 23, it's going to get gravity that will lift it, hopefully. So let's rewind, push play, pump up our balloon, and it'll start to float. And it'll go off into the forever land. Woohoo! So now we should have a floating balloon. And let's just do, for those that are following along, I've cleared off the hands. Give me a thumbs up, a raised hand that you're good to go. Someone's jumps a mile when inflated. Nice. Did you increase your inflated value from 9.8 to something greater? Cool. Thank you, Vincent. Good to see you're good to go. Got it. Okay. All right. Well, let's make some cloth to hold this balloon down. This transparent shader is starting to bug me, so I'm needing to make it less transparent for my own sanity. If I can find it. I guess I'm not going to find it. Go hypershade. Oh my. This might not be happening. There we go. Okay, that's better. Okay, so let's make this piece of cloth that will let this balloon take off but not let it fly off into infinity, almost like we're flying balloons at your local used car lot. So let's make a plane, a polyplane. We're going to make a skinny strip of geometry. So about like so. I'm going to do it one grid wide. let's set our subdivisions to, let's see. So I'm putting 12 in the lengthwise, and just a few, maybe 4. Building more than 12. Let's do 18, 22. I like it when it's near squares on my cloth. So yeah, 24 by 4 seems okay to me. It's not perfect, but it should be good. Is Raven crashing too? Or excuse me, Vincent crashing also. Are oh no, good. Okay. So I'm gonna move my balloon geometry. Whoa. First, let me put a shader. Let me put something on this strip of cloth so we can see it. I'm going to right click on it, assign new material, choose a Lambert, throw a quick blue on it like you saw before in my example. Start. Will be fine. Okay. I'm going to take our original balloon and move it over to the edge. Okay. Oh yeah, and just so everyone can see, I think you guys are aware from your previous class with Zach of you can move. We can relocate our pivots by saying modify center pivot. That's such a handy move. I should learn what the keyboard shortcut is for that one because I like it, or I should just make one for myself. Okay, I'm going to put that at the end of that strip. Okay, so let's take our strip of cloth on frame 1, and we're going to make it an nCloth. Go nMesh, nCloth, and that will make it an nCloth. Let's reselect it. And first we're going to kind of set the base of this down. So I'm going to grab, with that nCloth selected, go to vertices, and select that last row of verts, if you will. And we'll do just like we did before with nCloth. Go in constraint, transform. So that will keep them right where they are. I'll show that again. I do that kind of fast. So on your strip that you've turned into an nCloth, select your last row of vertices. With that selected, go in constraint, transform. Okay, oh my goodness. Okay, now we're going to connect our cloth to our balloon. So again, we'll switch over to vertices mode, vert mode, select this last row of verts, and deselect this one that's on the second row. And then we're going to go to our balloon, and I will right click on it, go to vertices, and we'll select I'm going to shift select 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to do it that way. You could pick 1, you could pick 2, you could do whatever you like to do. It'll still work. And then the type of constraint we're going to apply is we'll go to in constraint, go to component to component. Okay. And let's see what she does. So if you rewind, stretch my timeline back out again and push play. It should blow up our balloon. And up she goes. And our cloth is keeping it cool. No problemos. Yeah. All right. So we have one issue that we can resolve, and that is that where they're connected, there's actually a gap where that constraint is. Let's try to fix that. It might cause a little goofy animation right here at first, but let's try to fix that. So what we'll do is with that, make sure let me pull it up in the outliner. Make sure you have that constraint selected. There's the constraint that I have selected. Oh. Yes. So for me, it's constraint 4 is because component to component constraint between the cloth and the balloon. With that selected, let's wheel down to the attribute that is called rest length method. And we need to change that from start distance to constant. And what that will do is try to close that gap with the geometry from our strip of cloth. Okay, so let me zoom out so we can watch this animate again. And hopefully, sometimes I get pops when we add that constant there. Push play. It's blowing up. Woohoo! There she goes. Yay. All right, so now if I zoom in to that again, there's still a little bit of a gap there. There's still a gap there. I was expecting that to be closed. I'll have to investigate that further, but normally switching over to constant resolves it. I wonder if let's try adjusting rest length. I don't know what that will do or not do. Might do nothing. Maybe that increased the gap. We'll just keep that at 0 and not worry about it. We'll have to resolve that gap issue later, although it did close somewhat. Okay. Yeah. Any questions about hypershade? Any questions about this part so far? If you guys want to raise your hand to give me feedback that you're good to go. Looks like Vincent's cool. Thank you, Vincent. Jono's good. Thank you, Jono. Let's see. Jono, you're in the UK. Vincent, I forget where you're coming from. Is that Serb? Okay. So let's do one more step. Now that we're blowing up the sphere, let's animate the sphere losing air pressure. Okay, so let's select our balloon, and we have our manual pressure setting, Serbia and Croatia. Cool. Thank you, Vincent. Nice. Okay, and I'll clear the hands. Thanks, y'all, for giving me feedback that you guys are diving in and on board. Excellent. Okay, so yeah, let's keyframe our pressure dropping out, and then we'll set our fabric, because right now our cloth strip is kind of in this perfect shape, which we'd like it to be a bit more realistic. And you know what? Before we even do that, let's throw some fields onto this. I'm going to throw a Newton onto these guys to add some movement. Let's see what that does. Hopefully it won't be too much, just to give it a little motion so it's not just still and boring. I'm going to crank it up. Okay, now just it's a little wobbly. It's not perfectly straight any longer. Okay, now that we've got that up there, let's grab our sphere and let's animate its. Let's turn its pressure down to. I will key it. I'm going to go back one frame, 180. Set it at 2, so that's pressure set to 2. And I'll go forward 10 frames to 190 for me. Let's see. Sure. And then I'll key it going down to -1, set key. So now if I rewind, it'll go up to 190, and then the air will drop out, and it should all collapse down to the floor. Here we go, and collapsing. Oh, so we collapsed it, but I forgot to do one other thing. So in order to make this fall, what do we need to do? What do we have to change? We have to change that gravity. So let me go back to the one. Let me rewind. Recall. So at the what is it, 190 mark, I think the pressure drops out, and that's when we'll animate our gravity. There we go. So now we'll go over to our gravity. Hello, Maya. Uh-oh. Maya's locking up. That makes me feel like I'm going to be guilty of a crash like you guys. Hello.
Hello.
My Maya is frozen right now. Hopefully it'll come back.
I can go ahead and pause if you want.
Sure, go ahead.
And we're back.
All right, great. Yes, so sorry, my Maya froze up just a little bit there, but we got it going again. So now we need to animate the gravity. So if I go to my outliner, and I'm at the right frame where the balloon is deflated, and we're going to, oh, I guess I have a gravity field from the previous attempt, right? So now if I animate my gravity field at this frame, I'll set a key, I'll go back one frame, leave it keyed at 1, go forward one frame, key it to -1. Hopefully I didn't delete the wrong gravity field. Let's find out. Then it should fall to the ground. Yay, that's working. Okay, so I'll just play the whole thing, the whole 200 frame section. Okay, coming up on frame 190 and 180 where the air will just get sucked out, gravity turns to negative, and everything falls down. Cool. All right. That's what we're looking for. Let's get this all settled. Okay. So now that we've dropped these down here, I'm going to grab my balloon and my fabric, and I'm going to do an additional, well, I'll just do one at a time. I'm going to select my balloon and go solver initial state, set from current again, just like we did before. I'm going to do the same with our fabric. Solver initial state, set from current. I should also set this to, let's see if full surface works. If that doesn't, we'll go to back to vertex face. Now I'm going to rewind. So we're starting from this crashed position. If I push play, hopefully nothing will blow up, but it is possible. It does look like there's some intersecting going on. We might get some really deformed balloon into a deformed cloth. So it should pump itself back up again. Oh yeah, that totally fell in on itself on all of that. Whew. So these are some of the funkiness that you can get with using nCloth. Let's see if we'll fool with this for just a minute and see if we can get it resolved. So for this one, I'll switch back to vertex edge. For this one, I would just need my pressures to be increased for the balloon to push through it. So if I step through, let's go to 20, I think is where I went to. Yeah, frame 20 is where it was. My blowing up pressure was set to 2. We'll set it to, I'll set it to 8, and then key that and just see if that helps it unbind from everything. 1, 2, 3. Let's see if it will a little better. A little bit, but still ugly. But now the cloth is a lot better. Now that the cloth isn't all stuck together, that's nice. I'm going to try rewinding and setting the sphere to, let's switch from full surface to vertex edge and see if that lets it unbind a little bit more. There we go. That worked. So switching the self-collision flag to vertex edge, clean that right up. So I'm happy that that was successful. We were able to encounter a problem and knock it out. That's great. All right. Let's let's move along. Go ahead and save the scene for yourself. Now you know how to blow up a balloon and float stuff around. Um, Let me show you. Let's do one more thing with a balloon, and then I'll show you guys how we can make a chain using that. Hopefully, Vincent and Jono, if did you guys happen to grab that script that was at the top of the BuzzNet feed? I wanted to drop that path back in. Let's do this. Let me wipe out the raise hands. If you guys can, okay, Vincent. Yeah, if you want, I'll paste that path again. Let me go find it real quick. Oops. Oh, that's on me. Okay, let's see if this is it. Okay, here is the path according to Jason. I wanted to get this to you guys, but you can grab this path in BuzzNet, and we'll put it in the show notes or homework notes or whatever as well. If you grab that script and put it in your scripts directory of your Maya project, we will be calling on that shortly. You can actually just hold on to that link, and we'll come when it's time to use it. I'll give you a moment to download. We'll pause the video and give you time to download it then. Okay. Yes. Let's move along. Let's just start with a fresh scene to prevent any crashing or anything. But yeah, this part was successful. So here, let's go for a new scene. And again, we'll be making a balloon type object, and we're going to blow it to smithereens. So here is, I'll show it, and then we'll start from scratch. And so here's a balloon that we're going to blow up. Imagine, and we blow it up some more, and kablooey. That was a little bit slow. We'll do a little better when we do it together. But that was, blowing up the balloon and popping it. We'll make it even better than that example. So new scene. Let's make another sphere, or you could make a cylinder, or whatever you guys want to use. Oh. Okay. Yeah, you'll want to drop, so inside of wherever your Maya project is set, it's like John was asking, where do I put the script? It's, yeah, not inside of your documents Maya scripts, but you could put it there. But likewise, if you have a Maya project directory set, you can just choose, there is a scripts folder in the Maya project directory structure, and you can drop it in there also. I believe it would work in either place, because Maya looks in multiple places for scripts. Okay, so first thing, let's take our random oblong American football balloon, and let's make it an nCloth. Let's go to our nucleus and turn on our ground plane. And I'm going to leave it the default nCloth, so it will. I'm going to sneeze one moment, sorry. Excuse me. I need a mute button for those moments. Okay. Thank you, Vincent. Yes, so we have an nCloth. Let's go ahead and I'll go to 300 frames or so. And let's drop it. Let it flatten again. Let it settle. It just folds right in on itself, doesn't it? I think I might just redo that and change its position. I think it's just boring for it to fall that way. Let's do something different. Hopefully I won't go too crazy. Okay. Well, with that still selected, I'll go to nSolver initial state and set from current. Okay. So now we have a balloon, And let's animate again, just like we did before. Let's go ahead and animate its pressure. I'm going to again change it to go to presets, airbag, replace, rewind, animate the pressure again. We are redoing some steps, so apologies for that, but let's do that. I'll switch it to manual pressure setting. And just let it sit there for 5 frames. Key pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And set its pressure to 2. And key it again. So I'm pumping it up to a frame 11. So let's just watch that animation. So I'm going to increase that. I'm going to go back to frame 11. I'm going to have its pressure be more like 5. It doesn't seem like it's tight enough for me. Let's try that. Okay, that's a lot more firm. I like that better. Okay. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to tell Maya that there are parts of it that are tearable, not as in terrible, as in English, you're awful, you're terrible, but as in able to tear. So let me play it through to frame 11 or so. Just let it float there, and we're going to. I like to use this. What is this called? Lasso tool. That we're most familiar with using it in Photoshop, and go to vertex mode. Let's just pick some places where we would like to see this item, we'd like to see this balloon tear. So I'm going to, sort of a lasso, kind of an X across this. I'll hold down Shift, another X across it. And let's see if I want to add. I guess I could add have another section of verts. So just kind of grab some vertices so that we would get some small pieces and some large pieces. So with those vertices selected, now if you're on let's go to our nCloth tab, and you'll see a little icon of a t-shirt tearing. Select cloth surface to make tearable, able to tear. 1, 2, 3, click. Oh my word. I've never had that happen before. I guess I should have done that before we animated it. Well, it turned it into a sphere for me. That's not good. Apologies, we will be repeating this section. Let's do that. Let's do this again. File, new scene. Here we go. So we'll make a sphere very quickly. Such a tall. Vincent, you're definitely getting your repeated instructions as you said you liked in this instance. Okay. I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to make it tearable before I squish it, before we drop it. Okay, so let's make it an nCloth, nMesh, nCloth. And now I'll get my lasso tool, and instead of doing an X this time, I'll do it slightly different. Well, I didn't go into vert mode. Let's do that. Vertex mode. Select some verts here. Hold down Shift. Select some verts here. And try some more. Okay. Grab some more on the bottom. Okay. There we go. Okay, now that we are pre-squishing it, now let's set it to tear able to tear. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. That time it didn't blow it. So doing it in that order was helpful. Okay, now let's go ahead and drop it. and let it fall. Oh, I forgot to turn on our ground plane. Go to nucleus, use plane, drop. Okay, nothing's tearing yet. Okay, let's set this to our initial state this time. So in solver, initial state, set from current. And rewind. So we're starting at this position. Now we're going to go to the, let's see, I haven't done the, let's set the airbag preset. And switch over to manual pressure setting. We'll go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, frame 5, and I'll set it to, let's keep it at a -1 to keep it small, and then we'll go forward to frame 10, 11, we'll go to 10, and set it to 3, and key it. And if you're, if yours didn't crash and you were able to keep going, or if you're having, I guess everyone's having to redo it. If you're stuck, you doing okay, Jono? I see it. Am I going too fast? Now we've got the pressure set to 10. Oh, right. So if yours keeps going back to a sphere, it should only. I switched the order this time where we maybe you followed along, where we didn't. We made it tearable, able to tear before we dropped it down. That should prevent it from becoming a sphere. That's not the case for you. Did it still become a sphere? And if so, that might be because of that X shape that we created. I'm not sure. Let me know if that keeps happening to you. Okay, so let me just play it here to see what we have so far. Whoops. It's the airbag setting oddly. Okay, it might be the airbag. Okay, so my pressure was a little bit high and made it all blow to smithereens. So let's find where I switch it to 3. Let's lower that down to 2. Okay. I'll make it, well, we'll just make it 1 to be extra safe. 1.5. 1.5. Key that. Rewind. Let's watch it go. Okay, there we go. So at pressure of 1.5, it blows up and doesn't pop. Yes, blowing up, tearing apart, perfect. Okay. What I was wanting to do is add a little bit of a sort of make it appear urgent, that like, oh my gosh, this is going to blow up. And now something that we can do is, yes, we blow it up. Like here, I'm going to stop at frame 20. With your nCloth balloon selected, if we go up to the top, or let's see, near the top, we have stretch resistance. So if we can figure out how can we time our animation to let it, once it blows up to this size at frame 20, let it continue to stretch. Let the stretch resistance take it farther out. And then once it's kind of expanded further with stretch resistance, then adjust our tearable quality and make it tear. So let's see if we can do that. So at frame, I'm actually going to go backwards to frame 15, or let's say frame 12. I'm going to key this current stretch resistance. And then I'm going to go forward. Let me just play through this by hand. So I'm stepping frame by frame. It's going to start stretching. So I'm going to say at frame 25, I'm going to turn this down to 10. Let's see what that does. I'll have to adjust these, I'm sure of it, but let's see what that does. Whew. It just ripped right apart. So there is a glue setting. Let's go find that. Let's go inside of our outliner. We can pick our constraint, which is the tearing setting. And inside of it, there is, let's find it together, glue strength. So here we go. We have a glue strength set to 0.1 and glue strength scale set to 1. So I'm just going to change that glue strength to 1 so that it will not, well, excuse me, we have to set it to 0.9. I forgot that at 1 it locks out, it blows it out. This makes it so it won't pop at all. Okay, so let's push play. It should blow up and start expanding, and I would like it to expand more than that. So let me go back to my cloth, go back to its shape, go find its stretch resistance, and I want to animate that. It's going down to 10 right there, so I guess I'm going to take it down to 5 instead of 10. Let's see if that, and then key that. Let's watch it again, see if it will expand some more. Take it even further. So 25. Get to 1. I'm expecting it to go to expand further than that. Did I not key that? I bet I forgot to key it, didn't I? 25. Yeah, I forgot to key it. 1. Set key. Pushing play. Whoa, that was really fast. So when it gets to that 1 to 5, it's just crazy. Let's step through. Let's see which section is the part that makes it really expand. What value? So stretch resistance just really goes fast. So I want to spread that out. So I'll move so where I go to 1 at 25, let's just set that to, I don't know, 20. And then we'll go to 40. Well, we'll try going to 40. Okay. So at 25, I'm going to key it to 20 instead. Basically, I'm just trying to work this out, guessing wise. We're going to go forward to 40. And now we're going to key this to 1. So hopefully, well, it'll take some more guessing, but let's see how it expands now. So the timing isn't right, but it's there. It'd be better if I were to grab my, what happens if I go animation editor, editor, my stretch resistance show up. Let's see. Oop. Oh, I don't know where that is. We'll not worry about that. We'll let the timing be off, but let's go ahead and animate its tearingness now that we have it big. So it blows up. Then it's going to get blown up a little more, and kablooey. That's about right where we want it to pop. So right here, for me, frame, yay for Vincent keeping up, hooray! Nice work. Right here at frame 45, we're going to go to the tearing attributes. So let's go to our outliner, go find that dynamic constraint, which is the tearingness. And the glue strength that is currently set at 0.9, I will go ahead and go back 1, 2 frames, 4 frames, 5 frames, and set that back to 0.1. Oh, excuse me, 0.9. There, key it, set key, go forward 5 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and set it to 0.1, which we believe will make it pop, set key, and rewind and play. So it's going to get bigger and not pop. So our glue strength scale will animate that as well. So let's go to 40. Let me make sure I key it. Yes. Okay, so we'll also key glue strength from 1. Go to frame 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 45. Key that down to 0.1 as well. I think if I just were to focus on the scale, that would have done it. And rewind and let's play and see if it'll pop bust. Get big. Why isn't it popping? Oh, I forgot to key. 45.1. Set key. Rewind. Play. Do it, do it, do it. Ow, kablooey. So one thing you'll see is that it continues to swing and shift. Now, any guesses as to what attribute would be causing the stuff to just keep going and going and going into infinity? What's actually making that happen is, yes, NATO for the win. Pressure. That's right. So we're going to go find the pressure setting down here. Go to frame 45. Actually, I'll go to 44 and key it. Then I'll go forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50, and then knock it down to 0. So I'm letting this, there's some overlap there so that their pressure will continue to push those pieces away for a few frames into it. Okay, let's rewind and punch play. We're blowing it up. Bluey. And then the pressure should stop and things should settle. Perfect. We blew it up. Excellent. Yes. Yep. Let's watch it go one more time. All right. Good deal. Well, for the any questions about this part? I know I've just kind of been cranking and talking out loud as we work through it and figure out problems. Any questions about making something terrible? And this is fun. It's fun to make things. All props to what's the guy's Duncan, the guy who's in charge of making this. What a wonderful job that he's done. And I've been noticing that recently he's been updating his blog. If you Google Duncan and Autodesk or Duncan's area, you get his blog. And most recently he sent out made a Roman candle, a kind of fireworks. That was kind of cool to see. I'll have to go play with that sometime. Okay. So with this done, that kind of wraps this portion up. But let's go ahead and cut to the questions on the homework. So with the Slag project that I know is very difficult to knock out and take some time with working out caching, I can start off by just verbally talking about caching. What I think it was Vincent that had a question about that. Yeah, so let me just verbally talk about caching, and then we could even give the screen to you guys to ask questions with audio. But let me comment on caching real quick. With all simulations, as this is a simulation, this balloon blowing up, expanding and popping, each time it will move a little differently. This wad of rubber balloon won't fold over the top of itself exactly the same each time. It's slightly different. So what caching does is instead of having to calculate it each time, and in fact, I could do this right now to this scene. Let's do that. I think I can. If I select this nCloth, we go, where do we? And we go to in cache, and now I'm going to say create new cache, and now it's going to play. But while it's playing, it's also writing to my desktop. It's writing this animation data to my hard drive. So it's storing per frame, each frame where everything is. It's writing out the animation and creating keyframes of everything. So here, so now that that's done, it should play back exactly the same. So notice we're at frame 300, and if you see, I don't know how, hopefully it's not too blurry on your screen. If you see this position that it's in, if I rewind and it's reading my cached animation file, it should come to this exact same position. While normally I won't do that. So I'll rewind, push play. So right now it's really fast. It's playing. Yeah, you can see this is the exact same position. It's playing much faster now that it's reading directly from my hard drive and not calculating it. So that's what caching does for us. And what this also allows for is if we had to when you have a render farm, when you have access, like I teach up at the university, we have a big render farm. The render farm, each machine, if we didn't have it cached, it would calculate differently. So each chunk of frames that each machine was rendering would look different. But because we have it written out to our disk, every machine can read the same data set, and each frame will match the next frame after it or before it. I have no idea if I explained that well verbally, but I gave it a shot. Okay, more questions. So Jono's question is, I guess my question would be, do you ever get caches, fluid in cache in particular, randomly just stop working after X number of frames? The answer is yes, Jono, that it is difficult to, you often will end up re-caching things. Like it'll all be working, you'll think it's wonderful and perfect, and you push and you go render, and then you go look at your frames and you're like, oh crap, it's not working right, and you just have to do it again. And I honestly, because I don't know the nuts and bolts of why Maya would sometimes not read or read the files right, or maybe the cache file was written wrong. I'm not sure why errors happen in there, but they do. And that's just a part of the system and the way that it works. Oh yes, and that is a good point Jana brought up. I think I've solved it by using one file per frame, but my final render didn't finish yet. Yes, that is absolutely the best way to do it, is to render one file per frame. And the next question from Vincent: the end dynamics calculations get screwed sometimes. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you're just commenting on the errors. Not sure. I'm honestly not sure what causes those problems sometimes. Let's see. I was going to comment on how one file per frame is the best solution, because let's say you have frame 1 through 300. They're all correct except for your lacking, let's say, frames 280 to 290, and you just need those 10 frames. Well, if you had your cache file written out as one huge data file, in order to get those 10 frames out of it, Maya would have to process 279 frames of data before it could get to your frame 280. Whereas if you've written down the cache data per frame, then if it needs to render 280, it can go right to the 280's data and start rendering right away instead of having to process the stuff previously. Let's see, Vincent, I started my render batch without caching anything, and 20 hours later it's still in frame 79. Yeah, you'll want to stop that and just cache out. And so that this as well, your smoke is a fluid cache, so you have to go to the fluids setting inside of Maya, which is under dynamics. Under regular dynamics, you would create a new cache under the regular dynamics for your smoke, but then for your particle, your sparks, and your slag, you calculate that under the end dynamics. So yes, this is quite the create a new cache here. That homework is quite the challenging piece. And then someone said mine was going about a frame per 50 seconds before I stopped it for class. Yeah, cool. So no, Maya doesn't use. If you have it set to use the cache, it will use it at render time. Like right now, when I'm pushing play on my scene, it tells you that there's a cache associated with this. And the way you can find out, with my geometry selected, if I go to in cache, you can, let's see. Like if I was to hit delete cache, it would get rid of it. But if it was, if there wasn't a cache there, it would say, oh, you don't have a cache there. There's got to be another way to look, if there's a cache associated with it. I don't think it says in the outliner, does it? Let me look. Nope. If you start poking around in here and be like, oh, I'm trying to delete your cache or attach existing, these kinds of things, it will give you feedback if you have one. Let's see, another question. Somehow, before I deleted everything and started caching again, I ended up with multiple caches in the smoke fluid things input. Yes. And it did a blend merge something, you think. Okay, yeah, that can happen if you add, you could cache something out from 1 to 100 and then stop and then go, oh, let's append to that cache and go from 101 to the end. So you can do that as well and under the end cache settings. And there's no problem merging it. It can just be, fooling with these cache data files is an adventure in itself. I mean, there are some people at production houses that their specialty is moving not only animated cache data around, but point cloud data, and it can get crazy, and you can get huge, 7 gig data files of, caches. So it can just be crazy. So there is more work involved in getting these files out. Another one will, with doing it as one file per frame, I guess that's a bit more versatile. Yes, one file per frame is ideal of the two choices. Maybe be a good idea to open the work file inside during the class. Yeah, are you guys saying, would you guys like to show off one of your scenes or something and talk about it real quick? You guys want to have control of the screen? Okay, Nelson, are we able to hand over? Because I'm not sure how to do that. Maybe I can do that.
Yeah. Who we going to?
Send it to. Let's wait for one of you claim it, either Jono or Vincent, who wants it. Or maybe neither of y'all do. Wait.
Okay.
All right, Vincent says Jono. last one from you.
Jono, what's his name?
Jono UK, which is under Jonathan Wilkinson, but let me make sure. He says no, I don't have it. Okay. So maybe we're not passing it to them.
Oh.
Oh, you're saying. Oh, sorry. One of them is saying. Vincent's saying just for people who are watching later to know what we're talking about. I think they can look it up because they can just look at last class and see the PDF and the Maya scene that was included with that. If you go to our previous class 3. Okay, last question from Jono. He thinks, even with everything cached, smoke, particles, slag, the simulation still played really slowly from frame 50 onwards in perspective view. Any way to speed things up without hiding things? No, the only way, it's because there is so much data. And in fact, because everything's cached and there is so much data that it's having to shove through Maya in order to go from frame to frame, it will be slow. So the only way, you could go to wireframe to lighten the load, but honestly, that load is coming from those, being gigs of particle data, gigs of animation data, cache data. That's why it's so slow. But when it comes to render time, it helps things happen correctly. Okay, let's see. So in the end, how do we associate caches to the final render batch? Basically, when you create a cache, it's already associated with it and ready to go. John, a question: could you create a cache of a really simple simulation, less particles or lower resolution, and use that temporarily? Yes, you could. You could absolutely do that. You could go to your emitters and reduce how much they're emitting, and then when you go to cache them out, they would be a lighter mode. And then likewise, if you want to delete a cache, which I'll do now. So we have, if you look up, am I sharing my screen still? Yes. So right now, my animation goes really fast and it's repeatable. It's cached out. But with my object selected, I can go to end cache, delete cache, and there you can see in my feedback it says it deleted the cache, and now it will animate differently and move slow again. Kablooey. And it looks very different, the geometry from before. Cool. So yes, you can you can delete it, recreate it. Oh, you're getting errors. It froze at frame 250. Delete it, recache it out again. And yes, it's a slow process that you must be patient and enduring about. Okay. And that's correct, Jono. Your point is correct. If the cache is enabled, then it will be used during batch render. That is correct. All right, Vincent, what would be a good machine for any any fast machine with lots of processors like you. You guys are hilarious. You guys crack me up. Nice word. Okay. Well, if there's no Amiga, nice reference. If there are no other questions about homework and about this, that will wrap it up for today. And I kind of want to say let the Slag project continue because I know you guys will have to spend some time to make that happen. So let's continue that. Unless you want more homework, I'll give you some. I do have some lined up. Okay, we want more homework. Okay, more homework's coming. I will pass that on to either Nina or Nelson or whomever, and we will we'll upload that and put that on the calendar for you guys to knock out. All right, this is the end of part 2 of week 4 of Maya Dynamics. Thank you so much for everyone, and thank you Nelson for hosting for us today.
Awesome.